Hello guys, and welcome to a new Star Division 2 video today by me, Balkan. In this one, I have for you a 10 versus 10 on Krupki, and I'm going to be playing with the third VDD, with the V for Victory deployment type. As you can see, the game is underway, and my deployment's pretty easy to tell you about. It is a lot of Desarniki, and then 3 mortars, and that's pretty much it. And what I'm going to be doing with these 120mm mortars is providing myself with smoke that I can use to push up onto this hill early on. If we come across enemy troops along the way, we'll just unload the necessary amount of Desarniki to deal with them. And at close range, the Desarniki are pretty good because they now have the shock trait. And what the shock trait does is it reduces the amount of incoming damage within 100 meters. So Desarniki just got a lot stronger, and that's why I wanted to show off the third VDD today. Also, they are probably one of my more favorite divisions to use. Now here, the Langsoddershok, they're going to come through. Fortunately, Spicy had already unloaded his commandos from the first SSB, so he makes short work of the Langsoddershok, and my tanker Desarniki, they're just going to continue on forwards. I'm going to unload them all in the face of my opponent, and you'll see them go to work, and the Loves get evaporated. The Feldelatoriador not doing too hot either. Agasok get pinned down by my mortar fire. I also accidentally pinned down my own troops with mortar fire, so unfortunate. But I'm going to be trying to get some smoke over here as soon as possible, whilst I spread out these Desarniki. I ran one of the Desarniki forwards, so that I could get the surrender here. But otherwise, for now, we've got to take cover before the Jagdpanzer gets more fire down range. On the left-hand side here, you can see the first SSB off map coming out very, very early on. That is called in using the Morris LRC. So Spicy choosing to use that at the start of the game. Couple Shermans now on the way to deal with the 259s. Now these sort of half tracks are kind of difficult for my Desarniki to deal with. Fortunately, the 259 going down with the 20mm is really good. That's probably the most important kill for us. But now more smoke going to be on its way, but I'm just waiting for my supply truck to get shells into my 120mm because they actually ran out of ammunition. So getting the smoke back online. Smoke is actually really costly when it comes to supply, so I do have to use it somewhat smartly. I can't just spam it everywhere across the map. But at the moment, we're being pushed on hard by this chap with his Turan 1s. Now, Desarniki, they do have AT grenades that they can lob at these targets. So as the smoke comes down, it gives good cover to the Desarniki, and you'll see them swarm out of the tree line here and look for kills onto these tanks. We managed to blow up loads of these Turan 1s that were used very, very aggressively. The smoke completely catching my opponent off guard, allowing me to get really close to this Jagdpanzer, and it has nowhere to go. Another lovely lob of an AT grenade is going to finish that off. So we managed to take the hill using the smoke. Absolutely perfect. Shock and awe tactics from the Desarniki, just as they were designed. And yeah, the brilliant thing about this smoke is most of the infantry engagements that we're going to be taking is going to be within 100 meters, which activates that shock trait I was talking about. So you'll see here the Loves and the Akasok, they're going to come in and try and engage these Desarniki, but I'm really not taking as much damage as I would have beforehand doing this strategy, and it just makes it that much better. This is probably one of the only viable strategies in a large team game that you can do with third VDD, other than maybe relying on like late game T-34 spam or something. But here we'll see the Desarniki engaging the Loves nicely. The Loves, they only have 2 submachine guns, so my Desarniki, they have 8. That's when they're at full strength, of course. But you can see they are pinning down the Loves and the Akasok very quickly indeed. The smoke's going to allow me to just continue running forwards here. And just check out the disengagement. Desarniki dying nowhere near as quickly as they would have before. And we're able to get all this suppression down, getting very, very close to being able to surrender some of these units. Managed to surrender the first, just need to get the Hasselhoch pinned down, and then we can surrender the rest. Bear in mind, these are only 15-point squads, and we just surrendered 3 units of infantry. It's pretty huge. I also took out a bunch of Turans. We took out the Jagdpanzer. Things are going pretty well, and it's only going to continue as more of the enemy team is going to try and reinforce this side. Panzer Grenadiers now coming up onto the ridge. More smoke going to be coming down. More guards, more Desarniki on the way. At this point, I was using guards to back up my Desarniki, mainly because I'd run out of Desarniki in Phase A at this point. It's not often that I'd start the game with like 12 Desarniki or however many it was. But yeah, making sure these have ammo and we have enough smoke, super important. Aufklärer, Panzer IV, and Mr. Laggy, also going to be another victim of an AT grenade. More Turans have come up onto the ridge, and my guards, they also have AT grenades, so we're going to be able to kill them off. There's 81mm mortar, I'm not sure what that's doing up on the ridge, but that's going to get taken out. Borgward, however, on the horizon, unironically, actually a good counter to this kind of play, because what it can do is use the smoke cover itself to get close to the Desarniki, and then what can the Desarniki do? If they AT grenade a Borgward, the Borgward's going to blow up in their face. So there is literally no counter. You just got to run and hope that something else shoots it from a distance before your units die, or you can sacrifice one of your units to take it out, like my guards are going to do here. In this case, didn't actually take as much damage as I would have expected them to. But here we go. Artillery fire coming down. Still, mortar fire hitting strong. My smoke's still arriving. Hasselhoch have now come up to reinforce. More Desarniki pushing forwards whilst the smoke arrives. And we're just going to keep pressure onto this hill for the rest of the game. Now, Krupki and the 10v10 map design, where all the flags are quite far back, it's actually quite difficult to get ahead in this sort of configuration. So making the play for this hill early on was my way of trying to make sure that we won the game, basically, because this lobby that I was playing in, you can see, had a 90-minute time limit. There's 81 minutes left on the clock, and don't know about you, but at this point I wasn't really looking forward to a 90-minute game. I mean, honestly, the 10v10s on Krupki, which last 90 minutes, are often quite epic, but in this case, my deck wouldn't really last that long, so that's a pretty important fact to think about. Anyway, the Hasselhoch going to get snuck up on here. One of them gets surrendered, the second one gets taken out. Sturm Pioneers trying their best against the Desarniki, but getting taken out. The amount of SMGs I have here is working very well in my favour. Unfortunately, in the end though, getting outnumbered myself and taken out. So I've got to bring up the reinforcements, which are going to be pushing across the open. The more I'm pushing across the open, the more I'm going to lose. I need to make sure that I have the smoke to cover them as I cross, otherwise, like, these Hasselhoch can get pretty good value here. Fortunately, my guards can fight back, but with the enemy artillery now coming in, it's going to be hard work, because that is another good counter to this kind of smoke play. Whenever you see the smoke come down, just lob some mortar shells into it, and that way your opponent can't just like drive transports through the smoke and unload on top of you like I did at the start. So that's 2 ways now that I've explained how to counter this, because it does, I imagine, look quite oppressive for someone maybe less experienced in the game. It can kind of come across like impossible to counter, because smoke, it's one of those things that can be extremely difficult to deal with. Anyway, in this case, Hasselhoch getting taken out. Shock has brought up some commandos to join me. These are the number 10. I believe they are the French commandos. Yes, indeed. with those 2 Vickers K guns and able to help back me up. I'm now bringing up some T-34s with the smoke support. T-34s can kind of work very well at like a medium range, so I'm going to use the smoke to get the T-34s close enough that they can penetrate enemy targets. And yeah, that's pretty much the plan here. Guards, meanwhile, going to be engaging the Sturm Pioneers. The rest of my infantry is kind of just taking a chill pill because enemy artillery is coming in quite frequently now. We're bringing up some 50mm mortars and some Tanko Desaniki, and that was mainly because we were still in Phase A when I purchased these. But we have now moved into Phase B, which means I have more Desaniki available, and that means we can make more smoke plays. The other beautiful thing about these 50mm mortars, bringing them in, is they can also provide smoke. So if I need smoke on the fly, we can use those. T-34s, going to deal with that 250-10 quite nicely for us. If that were at 259, this would be like the perfect situation as to why you'd want a T-34-76 with your Desaniki in this sort of situation. Yeah, I believe like emergency off maps coming down on top of the hill right now, and that's obviously causing issues. There's no trails obviously coming in from the enemy artillery at the moment. But one of my Desaniki, they're going to get surrendered. Able to kill off the Sturm Pioneer. Those Sturm Pioneer on the left falling back. Pioneer Führer, gotta go. So we'll try and take them out soon. But meanwhile, T-34-76 providing good fire support onto the infantry as it retreats down the side of the hill. Off map, obviously, kind of a good counter as well to smoke. And the thing about these sorts of smoke plays is they do kind of make it obvious as to where you're going to push. However, in this case, you can see that I have also smoked here. Now the reason that I smoked here was to cover the reinforcements moving up this road to the right. But what I can also do is use that smoke to get on top of this flag. Now if I can capture 2 flags in this game, is going to make it even more likely we're going to win in 22 minutes with a minor victory. Unfortunately, one of my Desaniki there going to get caught out by the units in this building. But the Desaniki on the left have managed to get through. Up here, Borgvard takes an 18-8. Unfortunately takes my Desaniki and an M2A1 with it. Unfortunate. Smoke didn't really land very well, so the Panzergrenz have managed to get shots through the smoke towards my Desaniki, so I'm going to have to put even more rounds here, which is not ideal. DO-217 also finding a strafing run there, and we're going to be bombed by this Volkov 190, although that gets forced off by the AA. Whereas the Crusader AA there, oh, spicy though. That does a lot of damage and takes it out. Desaniki very close to taking out this Tiger, but not quite. All of these are going to have to fall back until I can get more smoke on target. We have managed to at least, you know, get a little bit of a salient into the factory buildings on the left. Now I just need to consolidate this push and maybe get into the factory units on that right side there. Meanwhile on the hill, just going to be relying mostly on the guards. I've got the T-34-76s in more of a defensive position, so that if they come up the edge of the hill, I can just kind of shoot them. I'm not going to try and peek that at all, because the Stug 3 and the Panzer 4, they've got more than enough advantage at range to make that very, very difficult. The Desaniki pushing up to try and help dislodge these Panzergrenz. Panzergrenz currently trying to use their Panzerbuchse to take out the M2A1. Unfortunately, the Panzerbuchse only has 1 damage, so the M2A1 can kind of tank that for a while, and did manage to use its 50 cal to help surrender that unit. So now we're on the 14-10. The opening smoke play works out quite well. You can see the enemy team has massively reacted to it now though, and that's why we ended up getting off map. We got artied, we got all sorts of infantry and tanks now coming in on this side that are going to make things difficult. That's why I decided, you know what, let's change tack. Let's just get into the factory, because all of the enemy forces are really focused on this hill right now. So this has worked out quite well. Got some more reinforcements on the way as well. We have some more Thessaloniki coming in, of course. What else would it be? The VDD, they're full of Thessaloniki, and this is a different type. We got the Thessaloniki DT coming in. They come with a couple of DT machine guns, which is cool. A bit better for engaging at range. Still not ideal for engaging at range. More for like mid-range engagements than anything else. Primarily, honestly, if you can be in heavy cover with the DT machine guns and then engage at 100 meters, that's like perfection. But the likelihood of that happening is pretty slim. Anyway, whilst we're pushing up, we are being supported by our teammates. So Shock here bringing up the Achilles, and so is Spicy. And they're going to be trying to engage these Tigers, but the Tiger manages to get a shooter kill there. That's pretty clutch. Smoke now covering my advance from the Thessaloniki here, though. So I'm just going to be rushing down the slope, pushing into the factory. I'm trying to get close to the Tiger right now. Hop into one of these buildings, get the AT grenade on target. Now, because this is a heavy tank, it does have 10 health. So, or 12 health even, which means that it can survive at least one anti-tank grenade if it's not already damaged. These Thessaloniki DT managing to get quite far up. My smokes worked out really well here. We're now actually pushing a 15-9 as my Thessaloniki get a nice position in the town further up. Unfortunately, some of my transports are getting hit as I'm trying to aggressively move them forwards. Like my Thessaloniki DT, they're actually getting killed in their transport. A bit unfortunate. It is one problem with the Thessaloniki, because the squads are only 8 man. If they do get killed in a transport, quite often it just wipes them out, depending on the caliber of the shot that hits you. Now rocket artillery coming in onto this hill as Shock and Jinjeft trying to push forwards, but a nasty hit there takes out 2 Shermans. Absolute carnage on this right hand side. Just look at this hill. This is Krupke 10v10, guys. It just turns into a pile of wrecks on this hill. Especially if it's focused on this early in the game. It's only going to get more and more as we move on. Jinjeft trying to get his off map down. That's going to be Smoke off map. He is playing the 3rd VDD as well. So using this 132mm Smoke off map to help cover my Thessaloniki here and stop them being fired at from a distance. It is actually something that's unique, I believe, to the 3rd VDD, is the Smoke off map. So definitely something to make good use of. Over on the left hand side here, this is a little bit of a problem for me, but my Thessaloniki managed to get the stealth. And then the Panzergrens are going to come into range and have a real bad time. Heavy cover to no cover engagement. This is something you want to completely avoid. Because not only that, I'm also getting the buff from the shock trait. So with the shock trait, Thessaloniki got so much better. And if you're wondering where the shock trait came from, well, the Men of Steel DLC came out recently. You don't have to own the DLC to get the traits on your infantry. It's just an addition to the game in general. And the 3rd VDD, they benefit from it with their Thessaloniki getting that trait. I don't know if the Thessaloniki DT get it, they don't. So, yeah, the Thessaloniki benefiting massively from that shock trait, making them a little bit more viable in these team games. But you can see it is costing me a lot of troops. Whilst I may have started, with those 12 Thessaloniki or however many it was, they're all dead now, right? A lot of the units that I brought in, they're dead now. And this entire play really just depends on like pure attrition. It's like you just keep going until you just have nothing left, and just hope that you've done enough damage to your opponents for them to like not wipe the floor with you afterwards. Like as soon as you run out of infantry, you're just doomed with a 3rd VDD. So at the moment, trying to stem the tide as we see the SBW 204s come through with the Panther G here. Look at all the wrecks on the road. Like my Stubbeck is trying to push up the M2A1 there. It's like a dead AT gun with the SBW 204. And then a Panther like further back that's now engaging. Like just... you gotta admire it. It's awesome. Unfortunately, a lot of people going down though. And now on the hill, things aren't going great either, as our opponent here playing the Hungarians is now making a bit of a comeback. He's got a good line of infantry supported by all of these Turan 2s, and it's wiping all of the infantry that I have in position on that right hill. But I am continuing to develop my position on the left. I'm making sure to keep these areas smoked off so that we can get more Thessaloniki into position. You can see I'm also having to invest a lot into supply. So we've got multiple more supply trucks. We've got 2 that are already empty back here in the light cover. Unfortunately, mortars are not automatically counter batteried. So in a 10v10 you can sometimes get away, like I am, with using mortars very liberally, because people in a 10v10 often get lazy and put onto the smart order for counter battery, and that won't target these 120s. But if you come up against better players, they might use like maybe SK 105s or something like that to try and counter battery these 120 mils, and that can obviously really shut down this sort of strategy, because you won't have enough smoke to kind of support your pushes, and you'll have to start relying a lot on the off-map vehicle in order to do that, like Ginjeft is doing here. And yeah, that basically runs out pretty quick. You have 6 off-map smoke strikes, I believe, on each of your off-map vehicles, and you get, I believe, 2 or 3. I think it depends on what phase you bring them in. But basically, the idea being it's limited. And when it runs out, your close-range infantry is going to be almost entirely useless unless you are fighting specifically over a forest. Now, unfortunately for me, Verflammen's going to come in here, take out my off-map vehicle, so I didn't even get the full strikes out of it. Good example of where the Tiger has more health, as the Thessaloniki did already hit that with an AT grenade, but a second AT grenade going to come in and finish the job there. The smoke covering this enough for me to try and sweep up even more tanks. This time going to hit Aufkläder Panzer 2, Aufkläder Panzer 3, took out the Tiger. Big smoke here as more and more of my troops come in to reinforce, and we're getting so many kills from the use of this smoke. So we thought he was safe this time around. He had all of his infantry in position to support his tanks, but as soon as the smoke lands and more Thessaloniki are running towards him, he's having a bad time. All of these tanks in our way, we're going to try and run them down. Turan 1 gets taken out, another Turan 1 already under fire. We're going to get the AT grenade off though, take it out. Thessaloniki meanwhile on the right hand side overwhelming the infantry that was here, and all of the tanks, including these Panzer IVs, also going down. Huge, absolutely huge. And 3 units of Thessaloniki bumping into a Hazelrock. You can see just how badly that went for the Hazelrock. And I got 3 more Thessaloniki coming up behind as well. So the Lang Sorochok and the Hazelrock here not going to be living long either. But I need more smoke. You can see that I'm trying to cue the command on the smoke as much as possible. Just keep it coming down. The idea being that I'm just going to keep this up long enough so that we can find the victory. Currently bouncing between 15-9 and 14-10, sometimes even going back to 13-11, but as long as we at least keep one flag up, we're counting down the enemy's tickets. So just gotta keep throwing more men into the meat grinder and hope that we can make it stick, basically. At the moment, Valdez has managed to get some infantry onto this flag, so that one's relatively secure for the time being. The factory area has been absolutely obliterated by artillery, and you can see that I don't really have many troops remaining here. And then on the right hand side, well, that's a lot of armoured cars coming through, and they're actually kind of difficult for the Desarniki to deal with. Djindjift was going to try and get to the edge of this hill so he could push up with his smoke, but it looks like the armoured cars are going to beat him to it. So they are going to be sitting on this ridge doing tons of damage with their 20 mils. You can see the Desarniki swarming in the distance over here, but just going to be coming under free fire from these 20 mils. SSB off map is going to be landing on the back in the meantime. Some of the Desarniki, they have managed to make it through. They are starting to drop their AT grenades onto these units, and with the smoke helping out there, they're just going to be able to run through and clean them up. And it's just all about timing with these sorts of pushes, and Djindjift demonstrating that. The enemy had a good timing against him, but then the smoke, as the Desarniki get smoke close, makes it almost impossible for them to be taken care of. Unfortunately, a couple of them getting surrendered though. Again, just putting your own artillery into the smoke if you're under pressure like this is a good idea. So our opponents are just like putting shots into the smoke. It could also be the off-map that's helping pin things down, but regardless, the Desarniki getting slowed down for the time being under fire. More Desarniki moving up on the left-hand side. They're going to be trying to get on top of this smoke to capture this flag. As we do move back to a 14-10, one of our teammates here has saved up and brought in 5 Churchill OP off-map vehicles and a 203 mil. That's a lot of off-map. He's going to be trying to delete that right side apparently. So I brought up some T-34s. They're going to now join me. T-34 1942 variants with the 90mm of frontal armor. They can help in a situation like this where my Desarniki are just outclassed at range and we need some support. T-34 76s can do that, whilst my smoke kind of comes in and sets us up for the next push. But here we go again with the off-map coming in hot on this right-hand side. Maybe this wasn't the SSB off-map, maybe it was just this off-map. No, there is a Morris LRC there, so I'm pretty sure it was the SSB off-map. But now 1 minute 20 seconds left on the clock. Anita bringing down smoke again, of course. Desarniki engaging Panzergrens at close range. Charging on forwards. Off-map's going to be coming down shortly, which I obviously need to be a little bit careful of. But to be honest, all of these squads, they're really low on men, so I'm not too concerned about it. And we're going to try and secure the kills onto the Panzer IV there. Now Valdez bringing down his off-map, another of the SSB, and it's just going to crush everything in the factory. Absolutely brutal, the SSB off-map. To be honest, sometimes I wonder what YouTube was thinking when they decided to add one of the most powerful off-map in the game to Phase A, but you know what it is. It's in the game now, so we've got to deal with it until it's changed, I guess, or people get bored of it. Regardless, it's doing a lot of work here, and it's a good opportunity for me to rush through with the Desarniki, so you can see me giving them the order there to fast move into that position. 40 seconds left on the clock. Smoke strategy so far has worked very well, but we've got through loads of supply vehicles, and you might be wondering, like, where are all of your units, Vulcan? Well, most of them are dead, but a lot of points is going into these supply trucks. These aren't, cheap. They're like 40 points a pop. So that's now, what, 8 supply trucks? And we've also still got the 3 mortars. They're Desant Niki charging in. Fortunately going to get unloaded in the face of the Valkyr there. We are managing to capture the flag once more, and that's going to be GG. 30 minutes, 11 seconds, and we're going to take the win. Very, very nice indeed. We're going to finish with 2,165 kills to 1,600 losses, and I thought this would be a fun sort of video to show off the smoke strategy once again. It's a strategy that I really, really enjoy. It's really fun to play, and it can be quite effective. And I think it's more effective now that the shock trait has been added to the Desant Niki after the Men of Steel DLC. So, yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed watching the Desant Niki run down a lot of armor, to be honest, and really actually get the better of a lot of infantry as well. They are significantly better at close range than they used to be within that 100 meters. Something to consider for sure. But that is it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.